It was January 12, 2023. Hollywood lights glittered as cameras flashed, but behind the glamour, no one could have predicted what was about to happen. Just days earlier, Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of the king of rock and roll, stood on the red carpet of the Golden Globes. Fans saw her, frail yet radiant, walking beside her mother Priscilla. Her eyes shimmered, her voice cracked with emotion as she spoke of her father's biopic. To the world, it seemed like a continuation of the Presley story, a legacy still alive. But to those who looked closer, something was hauntingly different. Only 72 hours later, the headlines would appear: Lisa Marie Presley dead at 54. A sudden cardiac arrest ripped her from this world, sending shockwaves through every corner of music, film, and history. For millions, the grief felt eerily familiar: another Presley gone too soon. Lisa Marie wasn't just a name in the tabloids. She was more than Elvis Presley's daughter. She was a mother, a singer, a woman who carried the unbearable weight of being born into a kingdom built on fame and tragedy. Her story was one of extraordinary privilege and extraordinary pain. From her childhood at Graceland, where she played in halls that echoed with her father's voice, to the devastating moment she lost him at just 9 years old, her life was forever shaped by a shadow she could never escape. She tried to step out, to build her own identity, to be known not as Elvis's daughter, but as Lisa Marie. Yet, the price of legacy is high, and Lisa paid it in ways the world never fully understood. Tonight, we go beyond the headlines. We unravel the untold story of Lisa Marie Presley, her battles, her triumphs, and her heartbreaks. Because if Elvis was the king, Lisa Marie was the reluctant princess who never asked for the crown. But before we uncover her journey, we must step back. Back to the beginning, back to the day the world welcomed a Presley heir into the spotlight. On February 1st, 1968, the world changed for Elvis Presley. For a man idolized by millions, who filled stadiums with screams and songs, nothing compared to the moment he held his baby girl in his arms. Lisa Marie Presley was born into history, not just into a family. Newspapers called her the Princess of Rock and Roll before she even took her first steps. She didn't get to choose her destiny, it was chosen for her, carved in stone, the moment she entered this world. Her earliest memories weren't of playgrounds and quiet nights. They were of Graceland, the sprawling Memphis mansion that was less home and more kingdom. Fans lined the gates day and night, hoping for a glimpse of Elvis or the little girl who bore his name. Imagine being a child and realizing that strangers knew your face, your name, your every move. Lisa Marie grew up with cameras flashing, whispers trailing, and security guarding every doorway. Even her laughter, innocent and childlike, echoed through corridors heavy with fame. But beneath the glamour of Graceland was a house of turbulence. Elvis and Priscilla's marriage was unraveling. By the time Lisa Marie was 5, her parents' divorce shattered what little sense of normal she had known. She began living between two worlds, the glitz of her father's mansion and the quieter, structured home of her mother. Yet neither place could shield her from the storm that was brewing. As the years passed, she witnessed her father's health decline. The king of rock and roll, larger than life to the world, was becoming a fragile figure in her eyes. She saw the toll of fame, the endless touring, the numbing escapes through prescription pills. To the world, Elvis was immortal. To Lisa Marie, he was daddy, and he was slipping away. Then came August 16, 1977. Lisa Marie was only 9 years old. Graceland was buzzing that morning, filled with people, movement, noise, and then silence. Elvis Presley, the man who had defined music for a generation, was gone. For the world, it was the death of an icon. For Lisa Marie, it was the loss of her father, the man who used to tuck her in, who once promised her that no matter what, she would always be his little girl. She later said she remembered that day with searing clarity, the chaos, the grief, the surreal moment when reality shattered. The world mourned Elvis the legend. Lisa Marie mourned Elvis the father, and in that moment, a child's innocence was buried along with him. That trauma would become the first of many scars. It would shape her teenage years, her music, her relationships, and the way she saw herself. From that day forward, Lisa Marie Presley was no longer just a little girl. She was the daughter of a fallen king, and every eye, every headline, every question that followed reminded her of it. She would spend the rest of her life trying to answer one haunting question: who was Lisa Marie Presley, apart from being Elvis's daughter? And that battle for identity was about to begin. The death of Elvis Presley left a void no one could fill, but for Lisa Marie, that loss was not just public, it was personal, consuming, and haunting. As the world placed flowers outside Graceland's gates, she was still a child trying to understand why her father would never walk through the door again. That grief didn't fade with time, it grew roots, shaping the storm of her teenage years. By the time she was a teenager, Lisa Marie's rebellion became her language of survival. She had wealth, fame, and the Presley name, but none of it gave her peace. Behind the mansion walls, she experimented with drugs, fell into reckless circles, and searched desperately for meaning. She later admitted that she struggled to cope, that self-destruction became her escape. It wasn't rebellion for the sake of rebellion, it was a cry for freedom in a life that never felt like her own. And then, at just 25 years old, the weight of an empire fell on her shoulders. With the passing of her grandfather Vernon Presley, Lisa Marie became the sole heir of Graceland. The sprawling estate, the endless fan base, the fortune, and the burden all became hers. Imagine being in your 20s and realizing that the entire legacy of Elvis Presley now rests in your hands. For some, it might have been a dream. For Lisa Marie, it was both power and prison. She was the custodian of a legend, yet still a young woman struggling to define herself. But she wasn't content to simply manage her father's memory. She wanted to create, to speak, to sing. In 2003, Lisa Marie released her debut album, To Whom It May Concern. The world braced itself, expecting Elvis reborn. What they got instead was raw, confessional, and undeniably hers. The lyrics spoke of pain, of identity, of a woman refusing to be silenced by the shadow of her father. Critics were surprised. Some dismissed it because she wasn't Elvis, but those who listened closely heard something deeper, a woman telling her own truth. "I was not trying to be him," she once said. "I was trying to be me." Her music became an outlet, a way to carve space where she was no longer the daughter of, but Lisa Marie Presley. Her follow-up albums, Now What and Storm and Grace, carried the same authenticity. They weren't chart toppers, they weren't made for headlines. They were confessions, and they drew in a loyal audience who understood that this was not about fame. This was survival through song. But carving an identity outside of Elvis was never easy. Every interview, every performance, every album review circled back to her father. Reporters asked about Elvis before they asked about her music. Fans showed up at concerts, hoping to glimpse the king's reflection in her face. And while she loved her father deeply, it left her torn, grateful for the connection, but desperate for individuality. The battle for identity defined Lisa Marie Presley. It was not a battle she fought once. It was a battle she fought every day. To be seen as herself, to be heard for her voice, to be remembered not just as Elvis's daughter, but as Lisa. Yet, as she searched for herself in music and fame, another force was shaping her life. A force even more powerful than legacy: love. And with love came heartbreak in ways that would push her deeper into the spotlight and deeper into pain. If music was Lisa Marie Presley's attempt to claim her own voice, love was her attempt to claim her own heart. But in Lisa Marie's world, even love was never private. Every relationship she entered became headlines, every marriage a public spectacle. And though the world consumed her romances as entertainment, behind the tabloids was a woman searching desperately for stability, for something real. Her first marriage was to musician Danny Q in 1988. Unlike the whirlwind stories that would follow, Danny was steady, grounding, almost ordinary, a stark contrast to the chaos of her upbringing. Together, they had 2 children, Riley and Benjamin. For a time, it seemed Lisa Marie had found a safe harbor, a family life away from the flashing cameras. But the weight of her past, the strain of fame, and her own inner battles wore on the marriage. In 1994, they divorced, though Danny remained one of the closest and most trusted people in her life. In fact, until her very last days, he would be there, a quiet anchor amid the storms. But then came the story. The world could not stop watching. Later that same year, Lisa Marie married Michael Jackson. To the media, it was the union of pop royalty, the king of pop and the princess of rock and roll. Cameras followed their every move, whether it was their infamous kiss at the MTV Video Music Awards or whispers of scandal behind closed doors. Lisa Marie insisted it was real, that she loved him, that she wanted to be there for him during his darkest times. But the circus of fame, the allegations surrounding Jackson, and the suffocating scrutiny destroyed any chance at a lasting bond. Their marriage ended in less than 2 years, but its imprint would never leave her. To Lisa Marie, it was love mixed with chaos, something that reflected the duality of her own life. After Michael came Nicolas Cage, the Hollywood actor whose obsession with Elvis was no secret. Their marriage in 2002 was fiery, passionate, and in the tabloids' words, destined to combust. And combust it did, after just 107 days. Lisa Marie later admitted it was intense, but unsustainable, another chapter where headlines overshadowed heart. Her longest marriage was to musician Michael Lockwood, whom she wed in 2006. They had twin daughters, Harper and Finley. For a while, it seemed like Lisa Marie might have finally found the balance she longed for: music, children, and a partner by her side. But beneath the surface, fractures deepened. Accusations, bitter court battles, and custody wars turned their love story into another tabloid war zone. When she filed for divorce in 2016, it was messy, public, and painful. And then, the greatest heartbreak of all. In 2020, Lisa Marie's son Benjamin Q died by suicide at just 27 years old. Benjamin wasn't just her child, he was her reflection, the one who looked most like Elvis. His loss shattered her in a way she could never hide. She spoke openly about the grief, saying it was unbearable, that she would never recover. Friends said she carried that sorrow every single day until her death. It became the defining wound of her later years. Lisa Marie's personal life became an endless headline, but behind those stories was a woman enduring loss after loss, heartbreak after heartbreak. To the world, it was drama. To her, it was survival. Yet, even in the depths of grief, she still found reasons to fight, to be present for her children, to keep making music, to keep living. But the battle was no longer just external, it was internal, a struggle she carried behind her smile. On stage, Lisa Marie Presley could command a microphone with haunting lyrics and raw emotion. In interviews, she often flashed a shy smile, her southern charm cutting through the noise of celebrity. But behind those moments of grace was a battle most people never saw. Lisa Marie lived with demons that no stage, no spotlight, and no amount of Presley legacy could erase. Addiction became one of her fiercest struggles. She admitted to abusing prescription drugs, much like her father once had. Pills for pain, pills for escape, pills for numbness. Rehab became part of her journey, not once, but multiple times. Each time she entered treatment, tabloids rushed to print another scandal, but Lisa Marie herself chose not to hide. She spoke candidly about her struggles, saying, "I was in the grips of it. I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to live either." It was this honesty that set her apart. Unlike many celebrities who wore masks, Lisa Marie laid her pain bare. She let fans see the cracks, the vulnerability, and because of that, people connected to her not as a Presley, but as a human being struggling to survive. Her children were the reason she kept fighting. Riley Keough, her eldest daughter, blossomed into a successful actress. Benjamin, before his tragic death, was the quiet soul who stayed away from fame. And her twins, Harper and Finley, were the light of her later years. Lisa Marie often said her children gave her purpose. They were her anchor when everything else threatened to pull her under. Music remained her therapy. In her lyrics, she confessed what words alone couldn't capture. Songs like Lights Out carried a chilling honesty. She sang about death, about legacy, about being buried next to her father at Graceland. Fans who listened closely understood Lisa Marie wasn't just writing music, she was writing her soul into every line. But the weight of grief never left her. Losing her son Benjamin left her broken in ways even she struggled to put into words. In a 2022 essay, she wrote, "Grief is something you will have to carry for the rest of your life. It's not something you get over, it's not something you move on from, it's something you live with." Her honesty about loss became a beacon for others walking through similar darkness. And yet, Lisa Marie was resilient. Every public appearance was proof that she refused to let her struggles define her. Fans saw the strength it took to stand on red carpets, to smile at cameras, to show up for her children. She bore her scars not with shame, but with defiance. Still, behind the smile was exhaustion. Friends said she seemed worn, as though carrying the Presley name, and all its weight was simply too much. By the time of her final public appearance at the Golden Globes in January 2023, her frailty was visible. The world saw her, applauded her, but no one knew just how close the end was. Lisa Marie Presley's life was a story of resilience, but resilience has a cost, and soon, that cost would be revealed in the most shocking way of all. January 10th, 2023. Lisa Marie Presley appeared at the Golden Globes, standing beside her mother Priscilla as they celebrated the film Elvis. Austin Butler had just won the award for Best Actor for his portrayal of her father, and when he spoke Lisa Marie's name, she looked visibly moved. Her voice cracked during interviews, her frame fragile, her eyes heavy with a kind of sorrow no makeup could hide. Fans praised her presence, unaware that within days, tragedy would strike. 2 mornings later, on January 12th, she was found unresponsive in her Calabasas home. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but it was too late. The daughter of Elvis Presley was gone at just 54 years old. The headlines were instant, the shock worldwide. To many, it felt like history repeating itself. Another Presley, gone too soon. Her death left not only her family shattered, but also raised questions of legacy. Who would carry on the Presley story? Who would protect Graceland, the very symbol of Elvis and Lisa Marie's intertwined destinies? Almost immediately, the battle over her estate began. Priscilla Presley, her mother, and Riley Keough, her eldest daughter, found themselves in legal disputes. Fans watched as the Presley legacy, already weighed down by tragedy, became embroiled in another family conflict. But Riley, the granddaughter of Elvis and daughter of Lisa Marie, ultimately emerged as the heir. Quiet, composed, and fiercely protective of her family's name, Riley Keough became the new guardian of Graceland. At just 34, she was thrust into the role Lisa Marie had once carried, the keeper of the Presley empire. For Riley, it wasn't about money. It was about preserving what her mother and grandfather had built, ensuring their stories would endure. Tributes poured in from across the globe. Priscilla Presley's words cut deep. "I am heartbroken. The death of my beautiful daughter Lisa Marie will always haunt me." Musicians, actors, and fans spoke of her honesty, her bravery, her vulnerability. They remembered her not just for her last name, but for her courage to live openly, flaws and all. And at Graceland, something remarkable happened. Thousands gathered to honor her, just as they had for Elvis decades earlier. Fans held candles, sang songs, and left handwritten notes. Lisa Marie had once written in her song, Lights Out, that she would one day be laid to rest beside her father. And in death, that haunting lyric became reality. She was buried in Graceland's meditation garden, next to Elvis and her beloved son Benjamin. 3 generations, bound together forever. Her legacy isn't defined by chart-topping hits or flawless public image. It's defined by survival, honesty, and the courage to be vulnerable in a world that wanted her to be untouchable. Lisa Marie showed that fame does not erase pain, that even those born into privilege can be shattered by life's cruelty. And yet, in her resilience, she gave others strength. Through Riley, Harper, and Finley, her story continues. Through her music, her words, and the gates of Graceland, her presence lingers. Lisa Marie Presley's life ended too soon, but her legacy lives on in every fan who remembers her truth, every song that carries her voice, and every child who carries her blood. But her story isn't just about what she left behind. It's about what we can learn when the curtain falls, about the hidden costs of fame, and the humanity behind a legendary name. Lisa Marie Presley's life was a story written in extremes. She was born into unimaginable privilege, yet carried unimaginable pain. From the moment the world knew her name, she was defined by her father's shadow, yet she spent her life trying to carve her own. She experienced the dizzying heights of fame, the devastation of loss, and the relentless pull of legacy. Her journey reminds us that behind every famous name is a fragile human being. Lisa Marie was not just the daughter of Elvis Presley. She was a mother who loved fiercely, a singer who poured her soul into her music, a woman who stumbled, who broke, who endured. She was candid about her flaws, unapologetic about her battles, and unafraid to let the world see her scars. That honesty was her greatest gift. Even in her final years, when grief weighed heavy on her shoulders, she showed up. She smiled for cameras, she supported her children, she kept fighting. That resilience, the refusal to disappear, even when the world seemed too heavy, made her story not one of tragedy alone, but of endurance. Now, her daughter Riley stands as the new face of the Presley legacy, carrying both Elvis's blood and Lisa Marie's strength. Through Riley, through the twins, through the music, and through the gates of Graceland, Lisa Marie's story continues. It is not frozen in time. It lives, it evolves, it breathes. Perhaps that is the true lesson of Lisa Marie Presley's life, that fame may fade, legends may die, but love, resilience, and truth will always endure. Lisa Marie Presley was more than Elvis's daughter. She was Lisa Marie, the woman who fought to be seen, who lived through storms, and who, despite every heartbreak, refused to give up. And though she has left this world, her story, her true story, lives on. So tonight, as we remember her, we ask you, what does her journey mean to you? Share your reflections, your memories, your thoughts, because stories like Lisa Marie's are not just about one life, they are about all of us.